There was a quiet to Rachel I used to mistake for peace. The way she walked through a room, slow and steady, like someone who never doubted where she was going. I met her after my second deployment, back when I still felt the war under my skin every time I tried to fall asleep. She was a nurse in the rehab clinic where I got my legs stitched back together. She wasn't assigned to me, but she passed through often, asked if I wanted more coffee, made jokes about the mess hall food, said I looked like I needed a real meal. I didn't talk much. Most people don't know what to say to a guy who's limping and avoiding eye contact. But she didn't care. She'd just sit next to me during downtime and talk about her dog, her awful neighbor, some dumb show she was binging. I started looking forward to it. When I left the hospital, she gave me her number on the back of a cafeteria napkin. I carried it folded in my wallet for a week before I called. Our first date was at a diner. She wore jeans, no makeup, and laughed too loud at everything I said. I hadn't felt normal like that in years. By the third date, she stayed over. By the third month, she'd moved in. It wasn't perfect. I had nightmares. She had long shifts. I didn't like crowds. She loved busy bars. But we made it work. I liked that she wasn't scared of me, not of the silence, not of the limp, not of the scars. And she liked that I made her feel safe. At least that's what she used to say. "You're the only calm thing in my life," she told me once, her head on my chest, lights off, ceiling fan spinning above us. "You don't want anything from me." I remember smiling, thinking that was a compliment. Now I'm not so sure. When we got married, it was small. No big party. Just her sister, my brother, a couple of close friends. She wore a pale blue dress instead of white, said she didn't believe in pretending purity. I didn't care. She could have worn scrubs and I'd still think she was the most beautiful thing in the room. We worked in the same building, her on the third floor, me at the entrance. She'd wave sometimes when she walked in late for her shift, coffee in one hand, hair up, always rushing. I liked seeing her. It grounded me, gave me something to look forward to during those long, quiet nights. But over time, something changed. She got more private, started locking her phone, took longer to answer texts, said she was just tired after shifts, began staying later. At first, it made sense. Staffing shortages, pandemic stress, mandatory overtime. I didn't question it. I trusted her. I had no reason not to. Until the day I saw her in the parking garage, leaning against a car, standing too close to someone else. At first I thought it was just a coworker, but then I saw the way her hand rested on the other woman's waist, just for a second, but long enough. She didn't see me. I didn't say anything. Not that day, not for a while, because something inside me didn't want to believe what my eyes had already seen.
After that moment in the parking garage, I tried to forget, told myself it didn't mean what it looked like, told myself I'd seen it wrong, too far away, too quick. Maybe it was just a touch between friends. Nurses live in a different world. They're physical, always dealing with bodies, pain, closeness. But the image stuck. Her hand on that woman's waist, the way she leaned in just a little too comfortably. It stayed in my mind like a photo I never took. And after that, I noticed more. She started coming home smelling different. Not perfume. I know her scent. No, this was something else. Like cheap soap. Another kind of shampoo. Sweat that wasn't hers. Body heat. She always showered first thing when she walked in, even if her shift had just ended an hour ago. Once or twice I came home early and found the bathroom already steamed up, as if she'd rushed to scrub herself clean before I got in. I didn't ask. My mouth wanted to move, but my throat wouldn't let it. She stopped talking to me the way she used to. Conversations turned shallow. "How was your day?" replaced, "How are you feeling?" She used to notice when I was off, when a nightmare had shaken me, when my leg ached, when I couldn't eat. Now she barely looked up from her phone. And her phone, it became another wall between us. She never left it on the table anymore. She took it to the bathroom, to the laundry room, even into the shower. She turned off previews, started locking it. I'd wake up at night to find her smiling at the screen under the blanket, whispering in text to someone she clearly wanted more than she wanted sleep. I knew better than to ask who. Once I heard a name, Jules. She said it while half asleep. "No, Jules, not yet," she mumbled and turned over. I lay there next to her, staring into the dark, heart thudding, stomach turning, wondering who the hell Jules was and what she hadn't done yet. I checked your socials the next day. No one named Jules anywhere. No coworkers, no friends, nothing I could find. But that name never left me. I didn't forget it. Another time I saw her come into the building with someone, a tall, blonde woman in green scrubs. They were laughing, their arms brushing like magnets. I was on duty, by the entrance. They passed right by me. Rachel didn't flinch. She looked through me like I was a stranger. And that's what I was becoming. A stranger in my own life. A man guarding a building where his wife was slipping away inside the walls, behind closed doors, into other arms. But it wasn't just the woman. Something else was shifting. One night she stayed late, said they had an emergency surgery backup. I offered to pick her up. She refused too quickly. I waited anyway. Parked across from the lot, lights off, engine running. Watched as she came out 2 hours later, not with the blonde, but with a man. A doctor, I think. He had that posture, confident, smug, too relaxed. They talked. She touched his arm. He touched her lower back. Then she got into her car and drove off. He watched her leave. I didn't follow. I didn't scream. I didn't hit the steering wheel like some betrayed husband in a movie. I just sat there, cold, still, like I used to sit on rooftops in the dark, watching a village below, waiting for something I already knew was coming. By the time I got home, she was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. Maybe she was. Or maybe she just didn't want to talk. I didn't lie down next to her that night. I took my pillow and went to the couch. She didn't come looking for me in the morning. And that said more than anything she could have confessed.
I wasn't trying to find proof. Not at first. I told myself I didn't need it, that I already knew. But something about the way she kissed me goodbye without looking in my eyes, the way she laughed into her phone when she thought I was out of earshot, the way she kept pulling away from even the smallest touch, it pushed me over a line I swore I wouldn't cross. So one night, while she was in the shower, I opened her laptop. She rarely used it anymore, mostly her phone, but I remembered the password. I didn't have a plan. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, but I found it fast. A hidden folder on her desktop. It wasn't locked, just buried under a random name. Shift_schedule 22. Inside were screenshots, messages, and photos, all saved, all deliberate. Some were of her and Jules, a woman I now recognize from the hospital. Pictures in scrubs, half-dressed, laughing in the mirror, one with Rachel's hand under her shirt. Text threads that spanned months. Long messages, flirting, sexting, talk of hotels, of how alive she felt when they were alone. Jules wrote, "Does he suspect anything?" Rachel replied, "No, he thinks I'm just tired." But that wasn't all. There were more messages. A second thread, a different name. Dr. Keene. The smug bastard from the parking lot. He didn't write like Jules. No emotions, just blunt, transactional, direct. And Rachel was different with him too. More reckless, more physical. He sent her photos from the locker room.
She responded with pictures of herself in her car, skirt hiked up, hair wild, lipstick smudged. There was one voice memo I played on instinct. Her whispering his name, breathless, in the stairwell at work. I knew that stairwell. I used to walk her up it when we first started dating. Now it felt dirty. It wasn't a love affair. It was use. She used him like a drug, like something fast and mean to distract herself from what? From me? From Jules? From her own guilt? And she kept both lives going. Told Jules she wanted to leave everything behind. Told Keen she was bored at home. She played both sides with ease, maybe even pride. I couldn't tell which betrayal hit harder. The woman who made her feel emotionally alive, or the man who gave her permission to shut off completely. I closed the laptop with hands I barely felt. My whole body was shaking. Not in rage, but in this cold, shaking nausea that started in my gut and crawled up my spine. I looked down the hall where the bathroom light still leaked under the door. She was in there, humming again, the same way she did every night, like nothing was wrong. Like our life wasn't burning down. I didn't confront her. Not that night. I went outside, sat in my truck and stared at the wheel. I didn't even start the engine. Just sat. Trying to breathe. Trying to slow my thoughts. Not trying to picture the images still burned into my eyes. The way she looked at Jules. The way she moaned for Keen. And the way she smiled at me that same morning, pouring my coffee like a woman with no secrets. Everything in me wanted to scream, to throw the laptop, to wake her up with the truth and demand answers, but what would it change? She'd lie, cry, maybe even say she was sorry. Maybe she'd try to flip it on me, say I was cold, distant, broken from war. But I knew better. I hadn't left her. I'd loved her through every shift, every shadow, every silence. And she'd left me long before she ever touched them. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even blink. Just sat there, in the dark, listening to my own heartbeat, and wondering how the hell someone could lie that well for that long and still call it love. I waited 3 days, not because I was scared, but because I wanted to be sure I wouldn't yell, wouldn't lose control, wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I walked around in silence, made coffee like always, kissed her on the forehead like a man who didn't already know everything. She smiled, even laughed once when I joked about her driving like a maniac. The betrayal didn't hit hardest in the moment I found the proof. It hit here, in the calm, in the pretend normal. That was the real wound. On the third night, I told her we needed to talk. She sat at the kitchen table like she knew this was coming. No nervous laughter, no fake confusion, no performance. I said her name, quiet and firm. Rachel, I know. She blinked, tilted her head slightly, like she was processing how much I knew. I didn't give her a chance to deflect. I told her about Jules, about Keen, about the photos, the voice notes, the way she looked at them, the way she lied to me while holding my hand and saying she was tired. She didn't ask which photos, didn't demand to see evidence. She just nodded once, as if I'd finally caught up to where she'd been living for months. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, not even looking at me. "It just happened." Bullshit. Affairs don't just happen. Months of texting, sneaking, fucking people in cars and stairwells, that's not an accident. That's work. That's commitment. That's intent. I asked her why. She said nothing for a while. Then, "I needed something I couldn't get from you." I felt those words like a bullet under my ribs, not because they were cruel, but because they were said so casually. Like it was just a fact, like I was a product that expired and she had no choice but to try something new. I didn't ask if she loved them. I didn't care. What I cared about was the cold in her voice, the way she looked right through me. There wasn't even guilt in her face, just fatigue, like the conversation was annoying, like I was delaying her evening. I said, "You could have told me." She shrugged. "And then what? You'd leave and I'd be alone again?" I didn't want to lose everything. But she had already thrown it away. The silence after that was brutal. Not angry, just empty. Like the air had been sucked out of the house. I stood there looking at a woman I used to love with my entire soul and realized she wasn't mine anymore. Hell, maybe she never really was. I didn't hit anything, didn't cry. I just walked to the door and said, "I'll be gone in the morning." She didn't stop me. She didn't ask where I'd go. She just said, "Okay." That one word stayed with me longer than any moan, any photo, any lie. Okay. Like none of it mattered. Like I never really did. I left that morning without a plan, without hope that anything would change overnight. I left because staying meant pretending. Pretending the life I knew was still mine. Pretending the woman I loved was still there. But she wasn't. The house wasn't just empty of her body, it was hollowed out, like the walls themselves were mourning. It felt like walking through a ghost town of memories, echoes of laughter that no longer belonged to me. I didn't look back, didn't reach out to anyone. I vanished, like a shadow fading into dusk. There's no grand finale here, no heroic moment when the pain breaks and you find peace. Healing is a slow, jagged path that doesn't care about your readiness. It's messy and stubborn. Some days, the weight presses so hard on my chest I can barely breathe. It's not something you get over with a new face or a fresh start. It's a constant companion. Dark, heavy, cold, lurking in every quiet moment. The silence sometimes roars louder than any battlefield. At night, when the world is still, the memories come crashing back. Her smile, the lies, the secret phone screens lighting up in the dark. The sound of her voice when she told me she didn't mean to hurt me, as if months of betrayal were just a careless accident. The truth she hid in shadows, and the way she looked right through me like I was already gone. I stopped fighting those memories. I stopped trying to outrun the pain. Instead, I carry it with me, like the scars on my skin, raw reminders of wounds that never fully heal. Sometimes it feels like I'm drowning in my own grief, swallowed by a sea of broken promises and lost dreams. Other times it feels like a fire burning quietly beneath my ribs, a pain that sharpens me, keeps me awake, and reminds me I'm still alive. Living with this weight means living with uncertainty and anger and exhaustion. It means waking up every day to a world that looks nothing like the one I fought to come back to. It means feeling both numb and raw at the same time. I don't have answers. I don't have closure. I don't even have peace. I only have the slow, painful work of putting one foot in front of the other. There are moments when I break, when the loneliness swallows me whole and I want to scream at the empty walls. But then, somehow, I find a flicker of strength to keep moving forward. Because giving up isn't an option. Not for me. Not after everything I've been through. The war taught me how to survive bullets and bombs. This betrayal is another kind of battle, and I'm still fighting. I'm not healed. I'm not whole. I'm not ready to forgive or forget. I'm learning to live with the cracks inside me, the heavy, aching cracks that no one sees, but that shape every breath I take. And maybe that's what surviving really means, not pretending the pain isn't there, but carrying it with you, day after day, finding reasons to keep going even when your heart feels like it's breaking. For now, that's enough.